I've been battling against the big boys for years now, but the same old consumer complaints keep on coming in.
Big companies need to respect the consumer.
And I couldn't agree more. All over the country, people are sick to their back teeth with the big business bullies.
I think the big companies treat their consumers with contempt.
Well, I'm on a mission to change all that, and I don't just want results from individual cases. I want big changes from companies, as too many of you are having a rough ride. Don't despair though, because I'm here to take up the fight and try and make sure you don't get done. Coming up on today's programme, car warranties. Do they give you peace of mind or drive you out of your mind?
It was disbelief, to be honest. I couldn't believe this was happening.
I literally went into shock.
An industry insider lifts the lid on the world of dodgy builders and reveals his tips to save you thousands of pounds and a lot of hassle.
The chances, they don't have the quite right equipment to carry out the jobs. They're there just to relieve you of your money.
And we hit the high street with some consumer conundrums to see if you guys at home know your compensation from your counterclaims.
To be blunt, no idea in reality.
In the UK, a staggering 8 million cars are sold each year, and 3/4 of those are second-hand. Used cars are big business, and there are some great savings to be made, just so long as you make the right choice. Loads of car manufacturers have approved used car warranty schemes attached to their brand, and the original and one of the biggest of these is Vauxhall's Network Q. Now the question is, do you get the same peace of mind buying a used car as you do buying a new one? Well, nowadays, used car warranties can be almost as good as when buying a new car. And with a company like Vauxhall, you would expect something pretty decent. But does it give you the peace of mind and protection that you were looking for? Meet Darren Drake from Kent. He had the manufacturer's warranty in place and thought he had peace of mind with a Network Q pre-delivery check. But it didn't stay that way for long. His warranty worries started in September 2009 when he bought himself the car he had always dreamt of.
My friend had a Vauxhall Astra and he was really pleased with it, so I thought I'd go and get one the same as that.
But getting your dream motor doesn't come cheap, so Darren decided to go for a used car. For extra reassurance, he bought this 1.6 litre Vauxhall Astra with just 3,200 miles on the clock through Vauxhall's Network Q used car scheme.
This was the first time I'd actually borrowed money to buy a car. So it actually cost me, I think it was about £9,700 or something, which I just felt that I decided to actually have a nice new car for a change.
And why not, Darren? Nothing wrong with treating yourself. 9 and a bit grand may have been a big wedge of cash, but buying through Network Q, Darren believed he was paying top money for top service.
And I was really pleased when I first bought it.
But just 6 months later, Darren's love affair with his new car was about to go on the skids. He and 3 friends had planned a road trip up north, and it seemed like the perfect opportunity for Darren to put his new toy through its paces. How wrong he was.
Driving up to Manchester, we broke down on the M6. The engine management system light came on, so I had to pull over and called the breakdown people out to have a look at the car. They couldn't get it started, and so I had to be towed to my destination in Manchester.
Not what you'd expect from a car that was under a year old. The breakdown companies diagnosed a misfiring cylinder, and Darren's pride and joy was taken to an approved Vauxhall garage. Fortunately, because of his warranty cover, they were happy to work on it.
They advised me that they weren't able to diagnose what was wrong with the car, what the fault was. They would have to strip down the engine to investigate to see what happened with the car.
It sounded bad, and stripping the engine would take time. Darren was forced to fork out £80 for a hire car to get him and his friends home. It hadn't been the road trip he was hoping for.
I was devastated, to be honest, to think that it wasn't reliable. And I was embarrassed as well because I felt I'd let the people I was with down as well because they was all in the car, stuck on the hard shoulder.
But things were about to get even worse. 2 weeks later, the garage rang Darren and dropped a bombshell.
The car would need a brand new engine, but that it wouldn't be covered under the manufacturer's warranty, and that the engine would cost me in the region of £2,000. And they were stating it wasn't covered under the warranty because it was run low on oil.
You what? £2,000? And how does it take 2 weeks to work out there's no oil in the car? Well, Vauxhall agreed with their garage in Manchester, and the finger of blame has been pointed squarely at Darren. It seems he's angry with 3 different companies. Vauxhall, who won't honour his manufacturer's warranty, the garage, who say it's all his fault, and finally Network Q, who sold him a car he thought was sound. And on top of all of this, he was without the use of a car for over 6 months. Time to put my expertise to good use.
Morning. Are you Darren?
Yeah, thanks a lot for coming.
No worries, nice to meet you. Luckily for Darren, I'm no learner driver when it comes to cases like his. First things first, let's deal with the nuts and bolts of the issue. Right, so presumably you still had warranty?
I had a Network Q 12-month warranty, I think it is, but also because the car was less than a year old, it was still under the manufacturer's warranty as well.
For what good that did him. Vauxhall and their garage's stance was he'd neglectfully let his car run out of oil, something Darren categorically denies. So on the day you broke down, you checked the oil and it was perfectly okay?
In the morning before I left, yeah.
Did it need topping up at all?
Not at all, didn't go anywhere near the filler cap, no.
So somewhere along that journey, it's lost most of its oil and the engine's blown, in a nutshell.
Yes.
And you never saw anything leaking out, no patches outside?
There's no patches outside, there's no smoke. It was travelling normally.
To add insult to injury, the Manchester garage later said it had yet more evidence against Darren.
Somebody allegedly had topped it up with clean oil to make it look like there was still oil in there.
You had done that?
No, I mean, again, it's my word against theirs. I can only tell you that I'm an honest person, and I never went anywhere near the filler cap because I didn't have to, because I checked it on the morning and there was plenty of oil in there.
So as it stands now, you've paid out nearly £2,200. They failed to supply you with any proof of what they've done with the car, apart from the fact the car's now working. How do you feel about your confidence with Vauxhall right now?
Really lost faith in them, to be honest. I did ask to see, some evidence of what they'd done.
Did you ever get those?
Never got those, no. And I did remind them, and he did agree to send them to me.
Already I can see what the problem is. Had the engine blown up because there was something mechanically wrong with it, in theory your warranty kicks in. Yeah. Oil is a serviceable item. Sure. Now, by that I mean, if you had a vacuum cleaner and the belt went, it's down to you. It doesn't matter how old it is to replace the belt. Yeah. A bit like your tyres wearing out. The area which I think you've got an argument with is the fact that you'd only done it 7,000 miles in 7 months and it run out of oil. So in theory, does that car use that much oil in that short period of time? Because if it does, that's horrendous. Mm. What do you want from Vauxhall's?
Ideally, I'd like the money back for the engine. Also, really, some more detailed reports of actually what's happened to my car in the garages.
The bottom line as I see it is, if Darren's car did really run out of oil, it shouldn't have. Assuming what the garage has said is correct, then Darren's oil has gone somewhere, but it's not up to me to prove wherever it went. It wasn't his fault. To do that, I need Darren's help. I want him to turn investigator and have a thorough read of his car's manual to try and work out how much oil his Astra should be using. My task will be to get on the blower to Vauxhall and to try and get to the bottom of this sticky situation. Lovely. Okay, do you want to sing me out?
Yeah, of course I will. Yeah, thanks a lot for coming, Dom.
This could be a tricky case for me. You see, it's Darren's word versus Vauxhall's. And let me tell you, Vauxhall are big business. They first started producing cars over 100 years ago and have grown to become one of the UK's biggest car brands. Owned by General Motors, one of the world's largest car manufacturers. To offer their customers peace of mind, Vauxhall also created the Network Q warranty scheme. 114 checks done to a used car before you buy it, and believe me, it's popular. So, what went wrong with Darren's? Well, I'm going to find out. To jumpstart my research, I'm going to put in a call to Vauxhall's technical support team. It's a call anyone could make to discover details about a car, but at this stage, they don't need to know I'm Dom from the BBC. Right, I want to find out everything I can about that car. Like how long Vauxhall think their cars can go before you need an oil change. It's not long till a helpful gentleman takes my call, and I start with the basics. There's a couple of things I need to know. Can you tell me what the service intervals are on it, please? I get the answer I require, and it's got my brain buzzing. What's quite good about this is I found out the vehicle should be serviced either every 20,000 miles or every year. Now, he bought that car in September, which meant it would have been due its service in October. Now, as far as I'm concerned, that means the Network Q garage should have serviced it prior to him taking it. They might say there's a month in between, but I think that would be very, very cruel if they did that. It certainly gives me some ammunition to argue with them. But using Darren's registration number, technical support track his car's service history, and it turns out his car did receive a service just before he bought it. That's good news, and means, theoretically, the car's oil should have been checked before Darren got it. It's all going swimmingly, until I mention I'm Dom from the BBC, and with that, I'm put straight through to the press department. Debbie, it's Dominic Littlewood calling from the BBC.
Hello.
Hello there. I let Debbie know what this is all about and briefly explain all the ins and outs of Darren's saga. Things are off to a good start.
In the first instance, to be honest, I really want to try and get to the bottom of the problem.
Yeah.
And speak to our customer care team to see the facts and what's actually gone on. So,
Totally understand. Well, let's say...
if you can give me as much information as you've got...
I will do. Debbie asks me to put everything into an email and get it off to her, but I can't help getting in early with some crucial questions I expect answers to. Is it typical of one of your cars that with such low mileage to lose all its engine oil within 7,000 miles? What caused the car to lose all its engine oil? These are awkward questions, but remember, Darren had requested but never received any paperwork or official reports about what tests were done to his car whilst the Vauxhall garage had it.
Take care.
Andrew, bye-bye. What a lovely lady. And I like it when I get someone nice on the phone. No aggravation. I've got a funny feeling this one is going to all go clickety-boom into place. Right, Debbie. Remember, write down all your details, who you spoke to, what numbers, what they said, because 5 minutes later you'll forget them. Coming up later in the programme, my mechanics have very different opinions to Vauxhall's.
I would be very surprised if a 10,000 mile car could lose all its oil and subsequently cause a great deal of damage.
Now, as far as I'm concerned, knowledge is a very powerful weapon when it comes to your consumer rights. And I've got some industry insiders who are prepared to spill the beans on the dirty tricks of their trade. So listen up, because their knowledge should help stop you from getting done. Today we're dealing with rogue builders, cowboy builders, cold call builders, call them whatever you want. They're after your hard-earned cash in return for a shoddy job. Today's insider is a professional builder with decades of experience who is sick to the back teeth of these chancers giving his profession a bad name.
I've been working in the construction industry for 25 years now and operate a business where we try to do the job to the best of our ability within a reasonable price. Due to the economic recession over the last few years, it's become apparent that there's many of these cold call builders. And what that is where somebody just comes and knocks on your door and says that you've got something wrong with your property and offer to fix it for you. They're not qualified, they're chancers, they don't have the quite right equipment to carry out the jobs, they're there just to relieve you of your money. The biggest cons at present that the cold callers are operating are driveways, window replacement, and the most common one is replacement of broken roof tiles. They say that they'll look for free of charge, look at the problem. He then says there's tiles missing off the roof, goes up on the roof, and literally does more damage than if there is just a single tile missing. There'll be more damage when he comes down. He tells them that the roof is in very, very bad state of repair. It's worse than he thought, and it would be cheaper to put a new roof on. And they just go ahead and the con's complete. Another major scam operating on at the moment is the flashings that are on the roof and in the valleys of the roof, and usually around the chimney stack. They prevent water ingress. They're usually in lead, and the scammer tries to say to you that the lead flashing needs replacing. This is undertaken using a far cheaper bitumen-based material. It looks like lead. It is a far cheaper material. It lasts approximately 1 year only, and they charge you £200. It probably costs $9.99 at a local DIY shop. Another one of their most famous scams is to knock on your front door and indicate to you that your driveway is in disrepair, and they can offer you a new driveway at a much reduced cost. A driveway, if laid correctly, should be down for at least 15 to 20 years. You will be lucky if you get 6 months to 1 year out of that job. A few years ago, I was called to a driveway that had been laid by the rogue builder. When I arrived and started to remove the driveway, it was laid on soft sand only over the dirt and the lawn and the flower beds that were there the week before. And I think she paid £3,400. It lasted no more than 3 weeks.
So, how do you stop yourself getting hot and bothered by the cold call builders? Well, here's my insider's advice. Always ask for a written quote and never give the go-ahead for any work without having seen one. Get at least 3 quotes and compare what each builder has to say. Never ever pay too much up front. Proper builders will always give you a payment schedule. Get references, but most importantly, make sure you check them out. Check up on elderly relatives and friends who may be vulnerable to cold callers. Tell them if anyone comes knocking to get them to ring you first before agreeing to any work. So there you have it, straight from the horse's mouth. Follow the advice of my insider and hopefully you won't get done. I've taken on the case of Darren Drake. In 2009, he bought his 1.6 litre Astra through Vauxhall's used car scheme called Network Q. It cost him just shy of 10 grand, but reassuringly, it came with an existing manufacturer's warranty. And he received a 114-point pre-delivery check, courtesy of Network Q. But just 6 months and 1 breakdown later, Darren was in for a shock.
I was quoted £2,147.
Ouch. Darren had to fork out for a new engine, and as if that wasn't bad enough, Vauxhall said it was his fault it broke in the first place. And because of that, they weren't going to honour his manufacturer's warranty, and they weren't going to refund him for the cost of the engine. Darren is one unhappy chappie, but is he alone?
Do you know, there are a staggering 31 million cars on our roads at the moment, and Darren's problems have highlighted some very interesting questions for all of us motorists. I mean, should you expect a car less than 2 years old to have such a major mechanical breakdown, or do we need to remind ourselves, after all, that it is a used car? Should we be required to prove that we maintained our vehicle and not invalidate the warranty through our own negligence?
To get answers to these questions, I've come to meet Steve Fowler, Editor-in-Chief at What Car magazine. What he doesn't know about car warranties isn't worth knowing.
The most common problem that we hear of with warranty claims in particular is it's down to your driving style. It's your problem. It's something that you've done. That is very, very difficult to prove. You might have to get some sort of technical inspection to look at the car to see if it has been damaged in some way by your driving style. But the best thing to do is to keep records of what you do. For example, if somebody says you haven't been putting oil in the car, you haven't been checking the oil regularly, keep a record. Keep a check of how often you do, even take pictures if you feel so inclined. Providing that sort of evidence is a surefire way of getting a manufacturer to listen to your claim and getting a garage to listen to your claim.
Now, in Darren Drake's case, what would be your advice for a situation like that?
It's a really difficult one because the garage has clearly said, no, we're not going to pay. So the onus is then on Darren to prove that he has been maintaining the car properly. Now, there are two things that he can do. One is he can prove that he has been checking the oil and has been putting oil in it when necessary, or it may come down to having an expert inspection of the vehicle to find out if there was a leak which caused the oil to drain quickly, which is what it sounds like has actually happened in this case. And Darren really has got to stand firm with this sort of thing and has got to insist on a third-party inspection. I think it's probably the way to go with this one, to see if there is a fault with the engine block that might have caused the leak. And if a garage, frankly, doesn't want that to happen, then they've got something to hide. And in a court, if it came to it, if a garage refused an independent inspection, that would probably go against them.
Do you think it's fair that the onus is on you to prove that it's not your fault?
It's massively unfair, but unfortunately, that's a fact of life. You've got to put a lot of effort, time, work into making sure that you have a case to put to the garage or to go beyond the garage to go to a manufacturer or a warranty provider. But be persistent. Keep on, write to the MD, write to the likes of Vauxhall, and we'll do all we can to help as well.
Right, what can we learn from Steve? Well, if you have a warranty on your car or are thinking of buying one, here's a few key pointers. Always read the small print. I know we say it, but understand what you are and are not covered for. Keep records. Now, I know it sounds extreme, but take photos every time you change the oil or service it, because it could help you out in the case of an argument. Independent inspections. Be prepared to fight fire with fire. If you're adamant you're in the right, then try to get the proof you need. As I've always said, be the squeaky wheel that gets the oil. Unfortunately though, Darren has no way of proving he'd been checking his oil. And because his car's original engine is now long gone, there's no way he can get it inspected to help prove his case. So, it's time for plan B. I've got to prove that even if Darren's car did use up all its oil, as Vauxhall say, he's not the one who should be carrying the can. And this is where Darren's going to lend a hand, because he's doing some research into the inner workings of his Astra's engine.
Dom's asked me to have a look at my manual to see what it says about oil consumption and how often I should check it and how much oil it uses. So I'm just having a quick look now.
What I'm really intrigued by is just how much oil Vauxhall think Darren's car could have used in the 7,000 miles he drove it.
It doesn't appear to give that specific information for my model or any model. It's quite general. It might be easier if we actually have a look on the internet to see if we can find the information.
But try as he might, Darren can't find the hard facts he's looking for. I think it's time to talk to the experts.
I'm just going to phone a local Vauxhall garage and ask them what the consumption would be for a Vauxhall Astra 1.6.
And what he discovers is pretty interesting. It seems Vauxhall's advice errs on the side of caution.
Okay, lovely. That's brilliant. Thanks a lot for your help. Cheers, Dan. Thanks. Cheers, bye. He's saying that the maximum it could use is up to 1 litre of oil for every 1,000 miles that you travel.
Thanks, Darren, but I have to say, I am a little shocked. 1 litre of oil per 1,000 miles is a hefty amount for any car to use. So is this an example of a manufacturer being overly cautious and shifting responsibility onto the owner? Well, if it is, I don't think it's fair. You see, Darren's car was nearly new, and the bottom line is, it shouldn't have lost its oil. But can I prove that? Well, to try, I recruited the help of 3 independent and highly experienced mechanics to get their take on Darren's car trouble.
My name's Andrew Chester.
Andrew is a self-taught mechanical maestro who has over 40 years' experience under his belt.
My name is Piers Bridgman-Williams.
Piers has been running his classic car garage for over 25 years and prides himself on the personal touch.
Peter House.
Peter has been a car dealer and mechanic for over 45 years and owns one of the largest family-run garages in London. As Darren never got to see the inspection reports from Vauxhall's garage, maybe these guys can shed some light on what might have happened. First up, what would they do if a car came in diagnosed with a misfiring cylinder like Darren's?
Compression, engine is turning.
Check the compression, which is fairly obvious.
Compression check on the cylinders to make sure they were in order.
Well, Darren's garage never mentioned anything to do with compression tests, but they did say they needed to strip the engine before they could diagnose what had gone wrong.
It'd definitely be the last thing you'd do before you'd check everything else before you strip the engine. 100%.
I certainly wouldn't strip anything down until I'd established why I wanted to strip it down.
To go into the engine without carrying out the proper test, they should know what is wrong. I would anyway.
Good point, but OK, let's get back to basics for a moment. Forget the allegations that Darren failed to check his oil. Forget the fact that Vauxhall have failed to provide inspection reports to prove this. Let's concentrate on my main argument here. However you look at it, a car that's only covered 10,000 miles like Darren's should not have used up all its oil.
Very unlikely that a low mileage engine would have run out of engine oil in 7,000 miles.
I would be very surprised if a 10,000 mile car could lose all its oil and subsequently cause a great deal of damage.
It should hardly be using oil at that mileage.
So that's 3 independent experts who all believe the oil loss was unlikely to be driver's error. In other words, Darren's fault. Even if Darren had neglected his oil, as Vauxhall suggests, it still shouldn't have run out. So surely there was something fundamentally wrong with the car. And armed with the opinions of my mechanics, it's time I got back on the blower to see what Vauxhall think. Now, Vauxhall stroke Network Q. It's been a week since I've heard from them. I hope this Vauxhall Network Q thing doesn't mean Vauxhall Long Network Q. Let's give her a call, find out. Now, my jokes aside, I'm actually beginning to lose my sense of humour because I want answers to my questions about Darren's case, but it doesn't look like I'm in luck.
The person you've called is not available. Please leave your message after the tone.
That's exactly what I do, but I want answers sooner rather than later. Right, time to call the boss. Dennis. Now, I might know the boss's name, but at this stage of my investigation, I haven't yet managed to get a direct dial number for him.
Please leave a message at the tone.
Oh, it drives me mad. Again, I have to leave a message through his secretary's answer phone. But it's better than nothing. Bye-bye. I hate voicemails, but at least there is a record of you making the call. Now I've got to wait for them to get back to me. Drives me bonkers. Now, consumer law can be very confusing. You've got your Sale of Goods Act, distance selling laws, right to return, etc, etc. But knowing just a few of these laws can save you not only money, but a lot of hassle as well. So listen up. So my research team have been out on the streets testing your consumer rights knowledge and gearing you up with the facts. First on my hit list, a romantic meal for two.
If you and your partner get food poisoning...
The day after eating in a restaurant.
And have to take time off work.
What are your rights?
To be blunt, no idea in reality.
Then you have the right to, like, go to court?
Yeah, I think you can sue the restaurant, really.
I would have thought you would be able to sue the restaurant if you could prove that it was the food that gave you food poisoning.
Correct. But the emphasis is on the word proof. The fact that the two of you became ill would strengthen your case, but you'd also need evidence that you went for tests with your doctor to establish the cause. Ultimately, you could get compensation and possibly loss of earnings for the time you had to take off work. Next up, holiday hullabaloo.
If you book a holiday
through a tour operator,
who's responsible for checking whether you need a visa
and organising it?
The travel agent.
Probably the home office.
All right, hold your horses before we go and get the government involved. It falls on a consumer buying the holiday to know whether they need a visa or not. Without one, you may not even be allowed to fly.
Oh, okay, yeah, I understand.
And finally, delivery date disappointments.
if you buy a washing machine online.
And miss the arranged delivery date.
Can you rearrange free delivery?
I don't think you can.
I would have thought so.
Yeah, we should.
Well, I'm afraid not. If you missed that delivery time, the company can choose to just leave it on your doorstep.
Really? What if it gets nicked?
Well, that could happen, so my advice is to try and make sure you're at home in the first place. On the whole, not a bad effort, you lot.
Thank you.
But there's always room for improvement. And trust me, know your rights and you won't get done. It's been over 2 weeks since I first contacted Vauxhall regarding Darren Drake, who despite having a manufacturer's warranty, ended up with a £2,000 bill for a new engine. I've emailed Vauxhall a list of questions I want answering, and I've been on the phone to them no less than 7 times. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye. But I still haven't got the answers I want. But you know me, I never give up. And finally, I've managed to track down Dennis Chick, the man who's hopefully going to clear this mess up once and for all. Let's make a phone call.
Hello?
Hi Dennis, it's Dominic. My first impressions are very good. For a start, Dennis agrees to let us broadcast his side of the conversation. Good man, Dennis, but this doesn't stop me giving him both barrels. I used to work for a Network Q garage. I was in the industry for 15 years, so I know the industry very, very well, but there's a few queries which I've got with the whole system. The guy's only done 7,000 miles, and it was a fairly new car. Now, although your manual says...
It was serviced before he was sold the vehicle. Fully, we found that on the record.
Okay, I was told it had an oil and filter change. So, obviously...
Yes, but that is the service. That is the service of that mileage.
Well, if that's the case then, Darren's car should have been brimming with oil. Your words, not mine, Vauxhall. No car of this age should lose that amount of oil unless something was fundamentally wrong with the engine. A fact my 3 expert mechanics agreed with. Regardless of what the manual says, an engine shouldn't run out of oil at 7,000 miles on a reasonably new car that's just been serviced. And these guys have even said to us, they quoted us, that this particular car and all cars should be able to go from service to service without topping up the oil very, very easily. And as you know, the service intervals are 20,000 miles all yearly. Yeah. So if it has run out of oil, it shouldn't have done. And the fact is, even if it did, and I'm not saying it didn't, I'm doubting it at the moment, something's faulty, something's not right in the fact that the oil has leaked out of the car and it's gone. Now, whatever's happened, the engine's been replaced now, which is probably the most cost-effective way to do it. I know what labour charges are, etc., etc. But I can't help feeling there's a fault there, and for some reason this guy's carrying the cam. Vauxhall rejected Darren's warranty claim based on reports from just one of their own garages. Darren has repeatedly asked to see these reports, but has got nowhere. Will I have more luck, though? Can you also get a copy of your engineer's report that actually examined the car afterwards, and the garage that changed the engine over?
Try. All right. Well, let me go and do some investigating myself. I'll get onto these reports. I'll ask the questions, and I'll get back to you, Dom, as soon as I've got some answers.
Darren's case is definitely heading in the right direction, but is he the only one to have had warranty problems with Vauxhall? Well, not according to another email I've received. It bears a startling resemblance to Darren's story, and best of all, this one has a happy ending. Meet the Reverend Steve Martin. No relation to the American comic, but his story is certainly laughable. This is a vicar who was vexed with his Vauxhall garage. Steve lives in Malvern Wells in Worcestershire, and in the line of work he's in, a car in good working order is a must-have commodity.
I need a reliable vehicle for my job. We live in the Malvern Hills here, and one of the things that obviously we clergy do is we do funerals. I have to be there half an hour before the funeral cortege gets there. Obviously, it's going to be pretty embarrassing if my car breaks down or I can't get my car started and the funeral cortege is on its way to the crematorium.
It doesn't bear thinking about Steve. So back in 2009, he set the wheels in motion to get the reliable runaround he needed.
We purchased it in September last year, and we thought we'd got a good buy. It felt good to drive.
His Vauxhall Vectra may have been second-hand, but it came with an existing manufacturer's warranty, just like Darren's. Steve thought he was fully protected, but his faith in his warranty was about to be tested.
Right from virtually the word go, I noticed there was problems with starting the car. It was only weeks, if that really, before I actually took the car back to the dealer we'd purchased it from. He felt that it was quite possibly a battery problem, and the juddering that I was getting was probably the wheels needed balancing. So they agreed to take it back.
And under the dealer's warranty, Steve's car was put right. But the good news didn't last long.
The starting problem hadn't been eradicated, and so I ended up taking it back to the original dealer.
The garage now said the problem was with the dual mass flywheel. Bit of a mouthful, I know, but essentially it's just a big weight between the engine and the clutch that smooths out the engine's vibrations. Now, a broken one of these would explain the knocking and juddering the Reverend had been feeling. Outside of his dealer warranty, Steve still had the manufacturer's warranty to protect him, so he took it to his local Vauxhall garage who got to work.
But it again became quite evident after a short period of time that the problem hadn't gone away.
This time, the Vauxhall garage blamed the clutch, something not covered by the warranty, so Steve had to cough up. But you guessed it, the problems were still there. Back it went for the 5th time in 10 months.
And then I phoned up and asked them how it was coming along, and they said in actual fact that they've discovered that it's the dual mass flywheel again, but that this time they couldn't cover it under warranty. And I asked them why, and they said that in actual fact, Mr. Martin, it's your fault, your problem. It's the way you drive the vehicle. And I said, pardon? He said, yes, we've decided it's down to your driving style. And I said, driving style? What does that mean? They couldn't actually answer that question, really. And then the bombshell dropped when they said, well, I said, well, how much is it going to cost me to get it back? And then they said, £1,000.
Driving style? What do you mean? And £1,000? Is all this finger pointing starting to sound familiar? Steve was as gobsmacked as I would have been, but it got worse because it turned out he was being held to ransom.
Well, I literally went in a shock. I mean, yeah, I couldn't believe that they were actually asking £1,000 of me before they would actually put the car back together again.
Again, sound familiar? Steve was now hot under the dog collar, but like a man after my own heart, he kept his cool. Gathering up all his paperwork, facts and figures, he finally contacted a higher power.
I contacted customer services after that conversation, Vauxhall Customer Services, who I have to say were absolutely fantastic.
And Steve's firm but friendly approach eventually got the desired result.
Customer Services sent, I think it was either their regional inspector or their regional manager down to Vauxhall's to have a look at the parts. His report, according to Customer Services, there was no way I could have caused that damage to those parts. And so I ended up having a new starter motor, a new clutch, and a new dual mass flywheel fitted.
And you guessed it, all under the existing manufacturer's warranty. What a result. So it just goes to show, when it's your word against theirs, it really does help to know what you're talking about. Speak to the experts, do your research, build up your case, just like Reverend Steve did, and then you'll be on to a winner. So, the Reverend Steve did it, but can I do the same for Darren? Both thought they were protected by their warranties and have ended up feeling let down. Well, it's been quite a few days and a few more calls to Vauxhall. They still haven't provided the mechanic's report from the Manchester garage, but there is some good news for Darren. So, it's time for me to knock on his door. Darren, good to see you again. How are you?
Jude, how you doing? How you getting on?
Yeah, all right, yeah. Been bashing the phone something too early, I can tell you that much. The first thing I want to do is bring Darren up to speed. it's been an uphill struggle, I've got to say. Just remind me of your situation. I mean, how long was it you were battling with Vauxhall for?
It's the best part, I think, of 6-7 months since I found out that they were going to charge me for the engine.
I've got to say, in fairness to Vauxhalls, as far as companies go to deal with, they've been absolutely amazing. They've listened to everything and they have investigated things. The thing in my favour is I started to ask, I think, slightly embarrassing questions for them. Things started to happen.
Right.
I told them Darren was a customer who'd lost all confidence in his car. Ever since his breakdown, he'd had niggly little problems with it and even has second thoughts about taking it on long journeys. And this is what they said. We will ask one of our senior technical engineers to inspect the vehicle fully and investigate further. Please can you provide me with your dealer's details so the inspection can be done at your convenience and alternative transport will be provided.
Okay, brilliant.
Right. That will give you the confidence back.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Reasonably happy. As happy as I can be, yeah.
Could be happier.
Could be happier.
Yeah, it's always could be happier.
Definitely could be happier, yeah, because it still cost me £2,000, yeah.
Hang on, there's no paragraph here. Due to the inconvenience and frustration caused by recent repairs, Vauxhall Motors will reimburse you the cost of your replacement engine and any consequential repairs that were necessary. Oh, that's interesting. You have to say more in here. Oh, there is. Look, there's a cheque for you.
No way! It's for the exact amount. I cannot believe it.
£2,100...
£47.17. That is unbelievable.
That's a bit bad news, isn't it?
That's very good news, yeah. I was being very diplomatic and modest, I think, but that is superb.
Get the car sorted out ASAP.
Yeah.
You're not going to be inconvenienced much because you can tell them where, when, which garage, get that cheque banked, you know, pay off the people that you borrowed the money from.
Yeah. This is brilliant. Thank you very much.
Mate, my pleasure. It's my pleasure, and thank you to Vauxhall, I suppose, as well. So that's it.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Job done. Mate, no worries. Listen.
I cannot explain how I feel at the moment. It is just unbelievable. I never thought I'd actually get anything back, let alone full payment for the engine. So I'm ecstatic, really, really happy, and I've got goose pimples now just talking about it, to be honest.
I'm glad to hear it, Darren. I'll be on my way then. And as they say in the movies, Astra la vista, baby. Oh yeah. We asked Vauxhall to comment on Darren and Reverend Steve's cases, and this is what they said. Vauxhall is delighted that these cases have been resolved to the satisfaction of both Mr. Drake and Reverend Martin. In the case of Mr. Drake, we have instructed one of our senior technicians to reassess the vehicle to establish that no further faults exist, and if they do, these will be rectified immediately to avoid any further inconvenience. So hopefully Darren has years of motoring bliss ahead of him, as his warranty worries have now been left by the roadside. No matter how much of a struggle it may seem like to stand up for your consumer rights, make no bones about it. Do as I do, and you won't get done.